Welcome to the best kept secret among Army professionals, the Association of the United States Army, where it's our mission to support you at every point in your career, the support you deserve. A place America's total Army trusts for leadership skills, education, and community. A place where you can build your future and share your voice. A place that hears you. You've checked all the blocks so far. How many more can you check with AUSA in your squad? Advance your future. Join AUSA today.
The Association of the United States Army is pleased to welcome you to AUSA's New Report webinar series. This webinar series features presentation by senior Army leaders responsible for key programs and initiatives. It also features contemporary military authors who weave together the past, present, and future story of the United States Army. Kicking off today's webinar is AUSA's Vice President of Leadership and Education, Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Association of the United States Army's Noon Report. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We appreciate your support as partners in defense of our nation. Joining us today is Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, author of Remember the Ramrods, an Army Brotherhood in War and Peace. For those joining us online today, please take advantage of having Staff Sergeant Bellavia here to ask questions. You can use the Questions and Answer tab on the right side of your screen to submit a question. After the discussion, we'll take as many questions as possible. You can also find the full bio for Staff Sergeant Bellavia and our moderator, Sergeant Major of the Army Dan Daly, in the Handouts tab. As stated, the moderator for today's discussion is Sergeant Major of the Army Daniel A. Daly, U.S. Army retired. Sergeant Major of the Army Daly currently serves as the Vice President of Non-Commissioned Officer and Soldier Programs at AUSA. He retired from the Army as the 15th SMA in 2019 after 30 years of service. Over his career, he deployed in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom, New Dawn, Desert Storm, and Desert Shield. He has a Bachelor of Science from Excelsior College and has been married to Holly, his wife, for 26 years. SMA Daly, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, General Smith. It is my honor to introduce our guest today, Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, who is the only living Iraq War veteran to receive the Medal of Honor. Surrounded by his family and every living member of his task force, he was awarded the honor on 25 June 2019 in recognition of his heroic efforts during the Third Battle of Fallujah in 2004. He served in 3 military campaigns, Kosovo in 2003, and Operation Iraqi Freedom I and Operation Iraqi Freedom II. He returned home in 2005 and founded the advocacy organization Vets for Freedom. Then in 2006 and 2008, he went back to Iraq as an embedded reporter. It was during these years that he wrote his first book, House to House, a first-hand military account that details his experiences in Fallujah. In 2019, he founded Deuce Deuce Relief Fund, which supports the soldiers of his former Task Force 2-2 in Iraq. He wrote his second book, Remember the Ramrods, the one we'll talk about today, an Army Brotherhood in War and Peace, in 2022. Please enjoy a short video before we turn the floor over to Staff Sergeant Bellavia.
The President of the United States of America has awarded, in the name of Congress, the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant David G. Bellavia, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty.
We talk about one person's actions, but there are 55 different decisions that other people make that allow you to make decisions, and I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. I'm especially proud of the recognition that this award brings to my unit, my leaders, and my peers of the mighty Ramrods of 2-2 Infantry, 3rd Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. The award should be seen as a validation of our efforts, not as a reward for the action of one individual in one house in Fallujah.
Sergeant Bellavia is the first living recipient of the Medal of Honor for actions taken during our Operation Iraqi Freedom. David is a truly great man, and this nation is proud to call him one of our own.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I want to thank Retired Sergeant Major of the Army Dan Daly and, of course, General Smith, not only for your leadership, for what you represent, but for helping raise me and so many other soldiers like me. I consider myself, I'm a product of my leadership. That's how I was raised. We know what right is, we know what wrong is. We screw up. We're going to continue to screw up. But the thing about my Army and the thing about this organization is I don't think anyone who's watching this can honestly say that they would be in this position in their lives without the institution of the United States Army. The United States Army has given us our left and our right limit. It's given us our true north. I wrote this book because for years, for almost 20 years, I thought I missed combat. I thought I missed getting shot at. I thought I missed adrenaline. And I realized what I missed was my sense of purpose. I missed waking up every day knowing that I had a reason to walk this earth. I was needed when I was in the uniform. My soldiers needed me. I needed them. And when you come home, see, civilians, I go around the country, I talk to people all the time. And the thing that I find so interesting about civilians, they like before they trust, right? You get to know someone, whether it's a personal relationship, romantic relationship, business. You like someone. They make you laugh. They make you feel safe. Trust is something that's earned over time after liking. You remember like I remember. Being a veteran, we don't necessarily like each other even today, right? But we trusted on day one. That person standing to your left or your right was someone that earned your trust just by being there. You knew anywhere you were going, someone was going to be right next to you, either in front of you, behind you, or to the side of you. And while the world, the civilian United States, wants to talk about black and white and skin color and religion and ethnicity and sexual preference, one thing we knew in the United States Army, we weren't black, we weren't white, we were green. Every single one of us. We had our fidelity to each other. Now you go home after that experience and you think you can trust everybody. Everybody is worthy of that fidelity. And what you find out is that some people aren't. And some people haven't gone through the gauntlet to earn the trust. And so veterans get disappointed. And veterans become subsumed with all of the chaos of civilian life and try to find something that matches their sense of purpose when they were at war. I went through it. Maybe you went through it. We don't miss combat. We miss belonging, and we miss our purpose. And what this book is about is how I found my tribe again. I found my family again. I found where I belong and my purpose. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Sergeant Bellavia, we appreciate the opportunity to have you in the room. I had the honor and privilege, as we were talking before the show, to sit on your Medal of Honor board and also host you as a Sergeant Major of the Army when you received that great distinction here in our nation's capital. And I got to meet your team. And I also had the honor this weekend. I finished your book this weekend. And I think there's a little personal connection for me. We talked about this because I got to see the last 3 chapters in vivid color in real time. So, and I could feel and see the brotherhood that you just talked about and as I read through those chapters. But I'd like to unpack this book a little bit because I think, like you said, this isn't just about the warfighting. It's about a connection of family, life, being a father, brotherhood of an army, what it means to serve and sacrifice, and what it means to bring those people back together. So I want to start with something that really touched me in the beginning of the book, is the man in white. And it carried through the first couple of chapters of the book. And what did it mean to you? And ultimately, how did that make you feel? And how did it change your life?
So I was right after you have a set play, whether it's a battle or a fight, something that our unit is given acknowledgement for being outstanding, you get a sense of swagger. You feel like a 800-pound gorilla. You were walking the streets and they know, don't mess with the U.S. Army. Those tankers, those Bradleys, they'll bite you. You know, don't tempt and poke the bear. I had that incredible, after Fallujah, I had just an incredible swagger to me. And we were presented with a battle right before the first election in January of 2005. we're cleaning out the bad guys, and I had a guy, I don't know, 7 feet in front of me with a machine gun. And I just was, so locked. Everything was normal.
Yeah.
And this was just a very easy target to take out, a bad guy. This is what we do. I missed, 2 magazines missed him. Totally missed him.
So you engaged this target, and you thought for sure that you did not hit the target.
I know. Listen, that feeling of, oh, there's sweat. You have a million excuses, right? You're nervous. The zero's off. Sam Colt didn't do it. This rifle, something's wrong. I missed him, and I had to confront something in my life, which was maybe it's not skill. Maybe it's not experience. Maybe there's just a destiny.
Yeah.
And maybe things just don't happen the way you want them to happen. But I couldn't handle that. I wasn't mature enough to handle that.
I was going to say, you carried this for some time.
Oh, I absolutely. Yeah. I thought about that, man, every single day for probably 14 years. And just, I thought I was, I thought I was well rehearsed and I could do my job. If I could mess that up, what else could I mess up?
Yeah.
And so everyone kept that for a very long time until finally this whole award thing was happening. And one of my really dear friends was like, you actually got him. And that just broke my brain.
But he had known for some time
right.
that you did, but led you to believe that you didn't, right? So this is a big part of the first part of the book here.
Yeah, it was just like this idea that we can save each other, that we could try to, maybe some people, my whole thing with the Army is that it truly is sometimes, we talk of the good moments, the happy moments. Traumatic experiences can happen, and they can either victimize us or they can empower us. And one of the things that I love about the Army and it's fundamentally changed my life is the after actions review. Mm-hmm. And how sometimes you go to businesses and they do after actions review and they're like, let me just tell you why everyone in this room is fantastic. Everyone was just
what
amazing.
They want to hear, right?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
No one did anything wrong. And we're breeding a generation that does not want to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that is the biggest, you're going to screw up. And our job is to make a controlled failure in the training environment so that when we go live, we don't have the big screw ups. But we did the after actions review, and sometimes it was so shocking to your system to know this is a standard and you're not there. Yeah. Now, what are you going to do to get us to where the standard needs to be? And now I thought to myself, people that leave the combat experience, what can you do with that experience? I'm not trained to do anything. I shoot rockets. I'm an artilleryman. You're trained to be a decent person that is going to impact our society. Yeah. Because I believe that my service started not at Fort Benning, Georgia. My service started when I left the Army. The Army trained me to be a citizen and it trained me to treat people with decency. And we don't do that. Everyone's all about diversity and dignity and respect. We don't get promoted for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not a part of mission success. This is our obligation as soldiers to treat each other with dignity and respect. Yeah. It's part of wearing the uniform. Yeah. It's crazy.
So you carry this story eloquently, bouncing back and forth in the first part of this book. And I don't want to spoil too much of it because I want people to go out and buy this book. But it weighed on your decision to stay in the Army, right? It had an impact on whether or not you stayed.
No,
you carried this for a while.
I wanted out. I wanted to be the guy that, you could go to. If I wasn't Michael Jordan, I wanted to be like Steve Kerr. You know what I mean? Like if I could take the game-winning shot, I wanted to at least set it up. Yeah. Let me do a pick or something. But I wanted to be a part of that team. The thing about the Medal of Honor that's so strange is that we condition soldiers that it's all about the team, the collective. I'm an individual in a community. The community is great because of my individual efforts, but it's not about the individual. Yeah. And then you get the Medal of Honor, and it becomes about the individual. So it's weird and it's odd. And what this book is really about is how I went through that fire with my friends, And now with this honor, we're going to collect it together. The medics, the tankers, the engineers, every one of their jobs and their skill is why we were able to succeed on the battlefield. So if there's going to be attention brought, let the attention be brought to the whole crew, because that's who earns it.
Absolutely. We're going to get to Ramrods in a minute, because I know that's a big part of why you wrote this book. I just want to remind our audience out there is go up to the question and answer tab, because we're going to jump into the audience questions. We've already got some coming in, but don't be afraid to ask the Q&A, because we have an incredible opportunity here from an incredible American hero to answer your questions today. Before we jump back into our audience, David, I just want to say, let's get to the award itself. You were waited 6 months. The Army started reaching out to you, and you explained this in the book that you had no idea what was going on. I mean, they really kept this secret, and you had some worries. And there was from the first time the Army reached out, there was roughly 6 months before the President of the United States called you. Explain what was going through your mind and the process.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know. There's a lot of spin-offs of, NCIS and Delta and all these different Army things. G1 personnel is never going to be a CBS sitcom. You know what I mean? Like, what does G1 do? What is going on here? I don't know what their powers are. I'm long removed from the Army chain of command, but they seem to know every aspect of my life, everything. And they know my military career. And so I'm looking at the news and I'm thinking, I've seen this story a couple times. Someone says something and an investigation starts. So I got a lawyer and said, talk to my attorney, because I'm not.
So you're sitting in New York, the Army's trying to reach out to you, they're talking to your friends, and you're thinking, I'm under investigation.
I'm under investigation. I'm not playing around. I have a very, very difficult time remembering. Go ahead and talk to him. And this guy's like, look, two things are going to happen. You're either going to be ambassador to France or something absurd, or you're in a lot of trouble, because they won't tell us anything.
No. Yeah.
And then finally, they say a senior member of the military is going to call you, and that senior member was the commander in chief, and it was made clear what it was. But for a while, I really thought it could only be bad news. Good news isn't delivered that way. And they show up with a publisher's clearinghouse check and flowers. They don't keep you guessing. This was crazy to me.
And you talk about that again, going back and forth between Iraq and being at home and up in the state of New York, and being at work and contemplating whether or not you should answer the phone. It's just an incredible story. But you can really relate of, gosh, you don't know. Maybe there is something that I did in Iraq that somebody wants to look at, right? I mean,
exactly.
We all spent a lot of time there. That is just absolutely, and it's a great part of the story. But then you just mentioned it too, so let's talk about it. You're in your studio because you're a radio show host up in New York,
right?
And you get a 2-minute warning, basically, right? You get a 2-minute warning, and then take it from there. What happens?
I mean, your phone goes completely black and just 202 area code. It's never happened to me before. Yeah. And they say, please hold for the President of the United States. Now, I went from not even knowing who the senior member of the DOD was to talking to the President of the United States, and it's either Alec Baldwin or someone playing with me, like someone doing an incredible President Trump voice.
Because you talk about, you had a political campaign previously. You ran for office, right? So you're thinking, hey, maybe this
could be some of, but I knew it wasn't. What I knew was it was a disruption. Yeah. Nothing about this was going to be positive, and it turned out to be the Medal of Honor, and you just are completely stunned. Because we go to Fort Benning, Georgia as an infantryman, those citations, these are Marvel Avengers. Mm-hmm. These are people, Gary Bykirk and, Hershey Miyamura from the Korea War, Audie Murphy. These are not normal people. These are superhumans. And you are not joining the military to even be considered to be in that category.
That's not why we're here, right?
That's not at all, but it's not possible. Yeah. It's not only not why we're here, it's not physically possible for it to happen. So, I remember when I was in high school, I saw Bill Cleveland at Black Hawk Down, his body, being dragged through the streets, and watching that Black Hawk Down on video and thinking, man, I don't know what my life is going to be. Am I going to go to dental school? Am I going to have 20 kids? Mm-hmm. Will I ever marry? But I want to get back at whoever did that to the Cleveland family. That's all I lived to do, was to avenge that loss. And to go to combat, to me, for an infantryman, was the greatest. I'm going to get to use these skills for my country with the people I love the most, the people I've been training with. I never in a million years thought it would lead to something like this. So my thought process was, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to eat a big shrimp at the White House, drink champagne, and then like Miss America, have a charity, like blind dogs, go volunteer.
So nobody's trained for this, right?
No one's trained for this. So I said, you know what? Why is it always about one guy? One guy gives a speech. Everyone's like, this is your action figure. Here's your comic book. I'm like, it's going to be about 35 men. It's going to be about our families. It's going to be about the fallen. It's going to be about the gold stars. It's going to be about every single, I want a young person. And then when you get the award, that Medal of Honor recipient should go recruit. He should go around the country and remind young people, we're not bit by a radioactive spider. Yeah. You can serve your country too. There's nothing special about us. This is your obligation to serve. So let's change the way the Medal of Honor is received. Yeah. And let's change. So it became about us, the team, the Ramrods, and it became about the Army and recruiting people and telling young men and women, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what I did in the Army. I'm going to tell you what I did when I got out of the Army. Yeah. This is what I was able to achieve because of my Army.
Well, you mentioned you didn't know whether you were going to Leavenworth, right, when that call was coming, or you were going to be the ambassador of France. You're the ambassador of the United States Army now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I got to tell you, one of the things that always bothered me, especially, I would always hear these stories, basic training, the drill sergeants, your army, back in my day, this is what the drill sergeant could do back in my day. And the thing that was the most humbling experience for me was going to see these young soldiers in basic, ROTC, West Point. They're better than we were.
Yeah, they are.
They're better than we were. And that really hurts my morale. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, personally, right?
Yeah, no, it bothers me.
But also...
But I learned a lesson after this whole experience, which is a leader is only judged by what their subordinates do. And you have to be... You have to be eclipsed by your subordinates. If you're what you think you are, what you're trained to be, you will be eclipsed by your subordinates. And if you're not willing to let your subordinates be greater than you, get out of my Army. Because that's why this institution, every generation is better than the one that came before it. And it kills me to see these Gen Zers. They can't get their sideburns even. They don't make their bed, but man, they're good.
They're incredible. Yeah.
They're really good.
And we both had the honor to fight with these young men and women. And when you put them in that situation, they respond. They are incredibly, they're incredibly resilient, and they're American heroes, each and every one of them. So I want to get into Ramrods. So we're going to talk about the Ramrods because I know that's a big part of this book and a big part of your passion behind writing this book. But I want to go out to our audience. We got a few questions out there because they have a lot of great questions for you. Of the training you received, what was most effective and what was least effective to prepare you and your team to function effectively and survive in combat?
Least effective. I think we should be training men and women before we go overseas what vehicles have engines in the front of the car and what vehicles have engines in the back of the car, because when you hide for cover behind a German-made automobile and you expect an engine block to be in the front, that we could maybe do a little longer of a lesson plan on those environments. The most important lessons in training are just the endurance. Leaders are always watched 24 hours a day. We watch you in uniform. We watch you out of uniform. 3-star general is in the PX. I guarantee you, everyone's seeing, are those sugar Cheerios? What is he? Does he own jeans? What is he doing? Because that's my example of what, if that guy's breaking the rules, if he's not living to the standard, I'm never living to the standard.
Because it's okay now.
It's now okay. So leaders are constantly watched. And in training, the guys who fall out of runs, the guys that aren't prepared, the mental breakdowns, the discipline breakdowns, there's no excuse. My soldiers don't get drunk and get DUIs. That's me. That's my reflection. So now I got to stand on a carpet And I got to go and talk to some battalion commander or my company commander and explain why my leadership failed.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that we always have to strive to be better is we have to know our subordinates, know every aspect about them to truly be able to lead them. But to me, the best training in the United States Army is just being around a group of people that are either being rained on, in the cold, in the suck, and realizing there's no general sitting in air conditioning. There's no colonel that's sitting in heat. No one's by a bonfire.
The whole team's out on the
whole
field.
Team's doing it.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to fight too.
And you mentioned this in the book too, and that's how teams are built. That's how bonds are built. I mean, it's sharing the laughs, the cries, the smiles, the hardships, the ups, the downs, and experiencing that bond is never broken. That's why you see that in the combat veterans. So back out to our audience again.
Yeah.
They got the questions coming in. Thanks to our audience again for participating, and thanks for sending your great questions. The next one's from John W. And David, he says, I'm curious how you were able to bring your entire platoon onto the Medal of Honor award stage. There must have been some pushback. We don't want to get too far ahead because we're going to talk about the Ramrods and the White House, but tell us about that time when you told the president, I believe, and you outlined this in your book. Can I bring him up?
Yeah, so the whole thing, traditionally, you're supposed to bring your family up, and that's it. That's the curtain call. That's the Daytona 500 laugh. And I just looked at all these faces, and I just thought to myself, I love my family, and my children are everything, and my family is important to me. That's why we fight for our family. That's what we do. Yeah. But those men and women and the families and Gold Stars in the audience, I needed them to at least be acknowledged. And so I asked the president, I said, can I bring the Ramrods up? And he said, how many? And I said, all of them. And he was like, but how many? And I'm like, all of them. And he's like, whatever, let's just do it. And protocol was completely gone at that point. Yeah. And it was like a clown car because, I mean, these folks came out.
I loved it.
And I looked at General Milley's face, and it looked like he was a little bit upset at me.
His
eyebrows are, it was like, and then.
You can never tell, but he's a teddy bear. He's a big teddy bear.
When General Milley smiled, I realized that this was something that you were blessed. The Army, institutional big Army, was saying, you know what, this is what we're about.
That's right.
And that meant the world to me to have that, to have you there and General Milley and General McConville both say, that's our Army right there. Yeah. So that was cool.
Dave, I'm going to take one more for the audience, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Ramrods, because I know that you want to spend some time on them. And this is a societal question. So, and I like this one because it's a little different. Nathan F. says, what is the biggest challenge you see for an American society for the next 20 years?
We have a citizen problem, and we have to have ownership in what this experiment is. Far too many people don't see the American experiment as their own, and that's something that we have to do a better job as civilians. We have to do a better job of. When I look, colleges are great. I'm a big fan of college, but we are breeding perpetual adolescence in colleges today, and you've got a lot of professors dropping R&B albums at 52. You got adult coloring books on Amazon being sold out. We got a lot of Peter Pan syndrome out there. And we want to make it very clear to moms and dads, if you trust us with your 18-year-old son or daughter, we're going to return a man and a woman to you. We crush adolescence in the United States Army. That's what we do. We destroy adolescence and we make adults. And these adults are going to carry the burdens of the world. And we have to remind folks out there that, the schools aren't doing it. The colleges aren't doing it. The clubs and basketball organizations and the Boy Scouts aren't doing it. They're not supposed to do it. The Army will do it every single time and condition an entire cadre of young Americans to realize this is still worth defending, and we're not going to go into the night.
Yeah. So back to the Ramrods. They're an important part of this book. I love how you incorporated them. And after the president called you, they were some of the first people you called, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a weird amalgam of personalities. I mean, we're every socioeconomic background, right? We represent America.
Yeah.
And we cancel each other's vote out. We like different sports teams. But what I was thinking is that everyone would want to go back to 2004 with me. Because that's one of the things that happens when you get the Medal of Honor is you're cryogenically frozen into a time period. And, you know, when Chuck Yeager died, I was blown away that all they talked about was the sound barrier. The guy was 99. He broke the sound barrier at 24. And here they are talking about Chuck Yeager, sound barrier man. Chuck Yeager was a father, a businessman, a granddad. They want to talk about you in the past tense. So in a way, it's like your own funeral. I thought all my guys would want to go back to 2004 with me. Yeah. And a lot of them didn't.
Yeah, you found that, right?
Yeah, a lot of them didn't. A lot of them
they wanted to bury the Iraq experience and live out the rest of their lives.
Right? It's a sarcophagus, and you just lock it away in a little time portal and forget about it. So that was tough.
And you had a struggle with your battle buddy, your Staff Sergeant Fitz, right?
Yeah.
And who was just that. He didn't want to relive this.
He didn't want to go back there. But again, one of the things, we don't want to do some of the things that we do for each other in combat, and they did it again. Right. So they saved me under fire, and then they saved me at home. And it just reminds me that those relationships that I had in the military and the Army were the most beautiful relationships I had in my life. And I don't know why I'm running away from it. I don't know why I'm trying to distance myself from my days as a soldier. I want to embrace it. I want to be young again. Yeah. Those men make me young again. Let's tackle the world together. We fought the enemy together. Let's go out there and dominate and get good jobs and hire people and create, and let's take the high ground together.
So you left these soldiers, many of them that you haven't seen since you left Germany in 2005. Last time a war experience was 2004 when you were still in Iraq. You're on the phone convincing them, hey, I need you there for me. This is about us. This isn't about me. And then you come to DC, which is a story which I encourage everybody to read. We're not going to talk about that today because I want to focus on Ramrods. You walk in the Sheraton, because we put you up in the Sheraton Hotel. Right. And the Ramrods are there, and so are some of the widows, right? So talk about that for us.
Well, the Sergeant Major of the Army banquet is the biggest thing on the calendar during Medal of Honor week, and it's at this really nice...
I think the White House is a little bit bigger than my banquet.
Well, but I'm saying that it's the first time that you get to hang out and be together. And so, this whole thing, everyone's, buying suits and, finding out what to do. And so we're all in this weird, juxtaposition of the pomp and circumstance of the Army and every senior person in the military. The Pentagon opens up, and then you got the guy who, that was doing push-ups in Germany. It was just so strange, but it was so unbelievably needed. And I didn't realize until when you serve with people and you know them so well, you could see their shadow, and you could differentiate what soldier is walking by just by their shadow. Yeah. You know their laugh, their sense of they get along good with these people. They don't like these people. They like this. They don't like that. You know how they're motivated. And when you hear that laughter again through a crowd of 250 people, that's the specialist. That's the staff sergeant. That's the sergeant first class. That's my guy. That's my tribe, and that feeling was something I won't forget.
And you mentioned another person who's not a soldier, but is a part of the team that was embedded with you during your experience at Fallujah. And you asked him to come to DC, and he made a big part of your life, throughout this period. Can you talk about him?
Well, yeah, Michael Ware, the reporter from Australia that was at Time Magazine and CNN. I'm used to the decent people in my world all wore uniforms. Those are the people that had the true north and the compass. Michael Ware, a journalist, I didn't have a whole lot of respect for journalism in general, let alone embedded reporters.
That was the downfall of all of us soldiers. We kind of had that little, trust.
If you're bringing hair gel to a combat zone, you're not, the guy I want to hang out with. But this was a guy who was, who literally went through all the things that we went through, and just has a decency and an honor about him that is not common with most civilians, but is common with the military. Yeah. He was born an infantryman, and he just found the wrong path. He used a camera lens instead of a rifle, but everything about him is almost identical to us. And he went in that house with me. He risked his life. He covered the story, and none of this really would have happened without him documenting that. And you think, how many other folks have done incredible things for their country as a unit, as a team, as individuals, and they're not documented.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's a wonderful man, and I love him.
In today's age, if you don't have a video or you're not on TikTok, it's not real, right? It's
well, that's the other thing too, is that you remember things going a certain way, and then all of a sudden the video comes out, and you're thinking to yourself, what's I don't remember it like that. I was far more aggressive. I was way tougher than that. Who's that screaming? Is that video? That's horrible. But no, the videotape comes out, and this is on video. Yeah. And that's a really, that's a pretty crazy thing too.
You also highlight the realities of war during this book. War has a cost to it, and you lost a lot of senior leaders during the Battle of Fallujah, and you also lost soldiers during combat, and they obviously couldn't be there, and you wanted them to be represented by their family members. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that was one of the things that really, we talked about the man in white and the luck or the bad luck, and I think when we lose people, a sergeant major, Stephen Falkenberg, who was the first casualty in Fallujah, sergeant majors have seen every armpit in the world. They've been everywhere. Yeah. They've done everything. You don't go and teach the sergeant major how to zero on a range. They're the ones that are walking around with a mug of coffee. I've been there. I've done it. I am the standard. Yeah. When they go in a firefight, you think, well, obviously skill, obviously experience has nothing to do with this. What do we do with that? What are we supposed to do about that? Do we avenge? Do we go out there? I thought for a long time that I needed rage and hate to sustain myself in a firefight. They're hurting our own, we're going to hurt them. Yeah. But that's like nitrous in an engine. It gets you 0 to 60, but then that engine's gone.
That's right. Yeah.
And in order to really sustain a fight, you can't feed hate. You got to feed it with love. We don't fight because we hate the enemy. We fight because we love each other, and we love our army, and we love our country. And that is what valor is all about. It's the root word of valor is actually love. Yeah. And so I realized that if I'm going to honor the people that we lost, not only do I have to remind the families that we're living for the fallen, I have to be a better person. Yeah. And I got to make sure that all of us are living to that standard. And it used to be a burden. It used to be overwhelming. Like, what do I got to go run a Boston Marathon now? And I got to go get a master's degree and all this other. But now all I have to do is just not be selfish. All I have to do is just leave my uniform in a better place than I got it. And if I can do that in every aspect of my life, if I can empower and motivate someone to be better than we are, then we are living for Sims and Falkenberg and Madison and Lawson and all the guys that aren't here. The 48 now that didn't make it.
And many of their families got to come and be part of it too. I know Captain Sims, you talk about him a lot in the book. Your company commander that you lost in Fallujah. Right. His wife and children came too. So that's really good.
Yeah, he had so many lessons of just, there was a weird time in the Iraq war with counterinsurgency and what are we doing, how are we fighting it. And I realized that officers, NCO and officers, we're not hanging out. We're not, we're not bowling together. NCOs and officers are two completely, and there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. But when you have officers and senior NCOs that are thinking 20 years down the road, and now you have the gray and are getting old, and you realize that was leadership. Yeah. They loved me. That's right. And I never would have ever expected, I'm not going to have a Dr. Phil moment where, an officer's going to be like, bring it in, give me a big hug. Let's hug this out. Oh, yeah. I don't even think they liked me in the moment.
You lay out the friction, but then you come back to say,
that's love.
They were right.
That's love. Yeah. They cared about me to make me better, and they cared about me to be a better father and a better husband and a better citizen. Yeah. And that's it's heavy and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's what I like about the book too. And we're going to go out to our audience here for some questions again, but just to say, it's just the way it's written. we talked this morning. You know, he comes in, he says, "So what do you think, SMA?" Because he knows I'm going to tell him the truth. I'm a sergeant major.
There's going to be unvarnished truth. Too much truth for me.
I said I loved it. So this is a reader. I promise you, pick it up. You better dedicate some time because you don't want to put it down. Let's go back out to our audience now. Now that you've been published in 2 successful books, what's your next? Are you doing anything in this space in the future?
I'm thinking a good holiday cookbook.
Yeah.
With a retired
you got some nice
sergeant major
recipes you think are going to go
no, I don't know.
beat Bobby Flay in the future?
I don't. What I love about, there's some veterans that low crawl to the copy machine.
Yeah.
You know, they wear their DD-214s on their car.
Yeah.
They're so, and you should be proud of your service.
Of course.
But some people wear it on their sleeve.
Yeah.
I find what I love is that we find out that someone's a veteran after they've done something amazing. They open a new business, they open a restaurant, they publish a book, and you're like, you're a vet?
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm able to do this because I was a veteran. Like, that's what got me going. So eventually, I would like to be, I was a radio guy before I was an Army guy.
Yeah.
In my world, like the Medal of Honor, I had people like, the greatest thing was I had someone at work say, someone with your name is getting the Medal of Honor. And I was like, wow. That is obviously the abs, my PT score isn't, you don't think it could possibly be me. But I think that there's something special about, you know, creating content or writing or doing something that we're not supposed to do. Because we're mouth breathers and knuckle draggers.
Yeah.
And we're out there saying, no, we're gonna fix your road.
Yeah.
We're gonna save you in the ER, and we're gonna write a book.
Well, I was right. I'll tell you, to be very honest with you, is that when I read it, man, this is so eloquently written. There's no way an infantry guy wrote this thing.
We'll shock you.
Yeah, a little shock. Now, you mentioned your radio show up in New York, right? So you brought it out. Tell the audience about it. Yeah.
It's the David Bellavia Show on Odyssey.com, and we're over the, mid-market. Buffalo's an awesome blue-collar, home of John Basilone. And so and Gary Bykirk, we just lost him, Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam. But Buffalo's just a blue collar, we're just, heartbreak and snow, and we're out there hustling and working. Yeah. And I just love my hometown, and I love the people. They're decent. We go through really difficult things. We had a horrible situation happen at a grocery store and a mass shooting that was racially based. And man, that community just all fell on their knees together, and it's such a beautiful area. I'm so proud to be from Buffalo. And I don't know if you could have said that with 4 Super Bowl losses, but I love my town and I love the people, and doing radio is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah. Back out to our audience, David, because I know we want to get to their questions too, and I know we want to hear a little bit more about the Ramrods, because I'm gonna close with a question on them. Which Medal of Honor recipients have you found particularly inspiring? You mentioned a few today. So, and are any of them a mentor to you?
Oh, they're all. I mean, I'm hanging out with Spider-Man and Iron Man every day. I mean, I don't. The first thing I did, I'm just a fly on the wall, and I'm listening to I'm listening to Vietnam pilots talking to Drew Dix, Roger Donlin. I mean, they based the Green Beret movie off Roger Donlin. He is the John Wayne in that movie. Hershey Miyamura just passed away. I don't know if there was an American. Woody Williams was a flamethrower guy in Iwo at 18. Woody Williams with a flamethrower at Iwo Jima. I mean, that was a stupid idea in 43, not only in 2023.
He's a brave kid to carry that thing.
I mean, Gary Bykirk, just because I was from Western New York, was always a hero growing up. Humble, decent, beautiful. Gary Luttrell. These stories of, some of these Vietnam vets got the Medal of Honor and a bus ticket home. Yeah. They didn't even, there was no TV. Yeah. They got 10 of them in a room, and, and the way it's treated now and respected now. And, and the Afghanistan guys are really good guys too. I mean, I wish that there were more Iraq. There needs to be more Iraq veterans, because there's no reason why there's one, and that's not right. There should be more. But every one of them, these older guys, these are living, just walking history. Yeah. And you get to hear these stories, and it's like, Benny Atkins, who passed away during COVID, his firefight was broken up because a Bengal tiger started eating the Viet Cong. I mean, when you win the day because a tiger attacks the enemy, dude, that's
at least he was on our side. At least that tiger was on our side, right?
Yeah, God bless it. These stories are incredible, and we're losing these veterans every day.
I need to share them.
And it's just so cool to be a part of it.
I like to refer to them yourself as our nation's credentials. These are our nation's credentials. This is what America's all about. Like you mentioned it several times, you talk about it in your book. We come from all walks of life, but when we come together collectively in the Army, we're here for one purpose, one reason. And somehow it works, right? Somehow
it does.
It just works.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So I know we're getting short on time, and I told you I wanted to come back to the final question. And it's about really what this book is about. And you said that. And when you read it, you'll feel it. The Ramrods, how are they doing today?
They're beautiful. They're dysfunctional. They're, just the most wonderful group of Americans. They're like every walk, everywhere you turn. But they're awesome. And here's what I know is that we're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
And this award was able to bring us all back together. And we share now, and we've got kids, being born, and the pictures are, everything. Divorce or promotion of a job, ups and downs, we're doing it together. And I miss that. And there's no reason why anyone should go 20 years forgetting who their people are,
Dave, I want to thank you for being with us today. You're always welcome here at the Association of the United States Army. It's been an honor and privilege to have met you. Your incredible humility is infectious, and we want to bring you back sometime soon so we can talk more about this book and more about what you're doing with the Ramrods.
Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for what you represent.
Thank you.
God bless you.
General Smith, back to you.
Gentlemen, wow. Thank you for such a great discussion. Before we part, I want to inform you of a few upcoming events. The AUSA Hot Topic on Army Aviation will be held on 23 February at AUSA headquarters, sponsored by Lockheed Martin and Bell. On 8 March, we will have a noon report webinar on soldier readiness and suicide prevention with Dr. James Hellis, Director, Army Readiness Director, and Chaplain Major General Thomas Soljum, the 25th Chief of Chaplains. The AUSA Global Force Symposium will be held 28 through 30 March in Huntsville, Alabama. The AUSA topic on readiness and resilience will be held on 12 April at AUSA headquarters. I hope you can join us for the upcoming webinar. There are other great speakers as scheduled. For more information about any of these events or to register, please visit our website at ausa.org. Finally, we want to thank all of you who support us with your membership. Membership matters. You help us support the Army. Thank you for attending, and have a great Army Day. Hua.